Why the hell is this happening? Now, my MMR is around high gold at best, assuming there is MMR calculations in the beta. That would mean there are tons of players around my level on all roles. Are there really so few people playing support? And why is that? As someone who's mained support since the game launched back in 2016, I share a lot of the frustrations of that side of the player base right now. More importantly, as a former Tier 3 analyst and color caster, I've spent years studying the fundamentals of the game and how all the pieces of balance come together. I've seen and contributed to a lot of the incoherent complaints about where support is as a role in the Overwatch 2 beta, but no one's really been able to hit the nail on the head for exactly why it's in such a bad state. My goal here is to condense the argument into a few simple points so that everyone can understand, and healthy discussion can begin about how to address the problem. So let's dive straight into it. The main consensus among anyone who plays support in Overwatch 2 is that the role feels underpowered, and it's a hell of a lot harder to survive in teamfights. The more deathmatchy nature of the game, combined with one less tank, means there's less protection for the backline. At times it can feel more like a respawn simulator, and that you as a support are practically worthless in the outcome of the match. But why is that? Losing the role of off-tank definitely ended up hurting supports a lot more than anyone anticipated, and that has a lot to do with the fact that they were the main facilitators of peel. In Overwatch 1, the off-tank and main support would peel for anyone on their team that was in danger. Both roles generally had the mobility to meet up with their teammates. The main support healed, while the off-tank would negate any incoming damage. While the heroes that made up the role still exist, every tank is now a main tank. They have to be, because if they're not on the front line taking space for their team, the enemy is just going to bulldoze through them. This leaves just the main support to attempt to peel, with nothing to act as the dedicated protection from the incoming damage. Natural cover can help in certain situations, but it's not a catch-all, especially not when the absence of the off-tank allows everyone to flank a lot more than they used to in Overwatch 1. This by itself isn't the problem per se, it's just the game moving in a new direction of design philosophy, and I think it's what most people are looking at when they say supports just need time to adjust their playstyle. Unfortunately, this is only half of the story. Barring a few minor changes to numbers here and there, supports really didn't get any major reworks like tanks and DPS did. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, because you now have your healers playing Overwatch 1 in Overwatch 2. Flex supports are generally the ones receiving the most peel in just about every meta in Overwatch's existence thus far. The entire concept of peel is based heavily around keeping squishies alive, because they can't avoid death by themselves, but still provide great value to the team. Hell, even main support's ability to peel was designed to go hand in hand with an off-tank mitigating damage. Most main supports don't have the ability to burst heal through a full team fight. What you're left with is just a select few support characters that are reasonably good in the beta, namely Lucio, Moira, and Ana. The first two are highly mobile and can take fights on their own, while Ana can find a decent amount of value with a well-placed anti-nade, and she had her damage slightly buffed. The rest of the support lineup, however, well, they're situational at best. Brig can be good in close quarters combat, but has trouble dealing with flankers if they're smart about positioning. Baptiste doesn't do enough damage or consistent heals to make a dent outside of the occasional immortality field. Mercy is highly dependent on pocketing a DPS that's popping off, and Zen is usually a sitting duck unless his team babysits him. So what should happen with supports? Something for sure, I'm just not sure what. They're definitely under-equipped for the game that's changed around them, but I think the philosophy can change depending on which character you're looking at. Lucio and Moira don't really need many changes in my opinion. They already have the ability to respond to the new playstyle well enough. I think it was SVB that suggested Ana have the cooldown and duration of her sleep dart reduced to give her a more consistent stun to flankers, which I honestly like the sound of. Brig could go a couple of ways in my opinion. You either make her more tanky or give her some sort of temporary speed boost to keep up with the new pace of the action. For Baptiste, you might be able to buff his damage, though this would almost have to come at the cost of his healing output. He could get broken very quickly if the numbers are changed too drastically there. Mercy, I'm not really sure if you can change, though I think it's okay to have the occasional hero that's niche like her. And with Zen, I'm probably the least certain about what to do with. Technically, you could try to give him a short cooldown to up his survivability, maybe some kind of very small self-heal. That sounds better than upping his damage even more or giving him better movement, but I could also feel like that could very easily go from bad to insanely overpowered with just a few small tweaks, so I'm cautious about suggesting anything serious for him. At this exact moment in time, it feels like the three most viable supports find the most value when they do less healing and contribute to damage more. Personally, I'm okay with this design philosophy if Blizzard decides to go that route. It would feel a lot more like Destiny 2, for example, where every class provides different utilities similar to the tank DPS healer trifecta, but in the end they can all dish out roughly equal damage. I don't think it would be a bad move to let most healers shift to being mini DPS with more team-oriented utility compared to to the more selfish utility that DPS have. And at the end of the day, I think that is a big reason why support just isn't fun to play in Overwatch 2. It is an increasingly selfish game compared to its predecessor, and supports receiving no major changes have left them as the only role designed to act selflessly. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, however. Blizzard did do an incredible job at making the tank role fun again with the first wave of the beta, so I do have a lot of hope that they'll start experimenting with major changes to support by the time the next beta period rolls around. Anyways, that's all I've got. I hope this explains the plight of support players a little better than the random rants thrown about on Twitter and the forums lately. If you enjoyed this, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and all that. I definitely plan on doing more Overwatch 2 case studies throughout this summer. More importantly, though, I want to know your thoughts on this. I very much disagree with the thought process of supports just need to adjust better, but I'm always open to civil discussion. Try to change my mind. Lord knows I've been wrong before. Regardless, I'll end it here so I don't ramble on any longer, so until next time, don't die.